following the announcement of new fuel prices by the state. Diesel prices have shot up by a record 40 shillings per litre, while petrol has gone up by 29 shillings. The new pricing has seen diesel and petrol now retail at 206 Kenya shillings per litre, with kerosene remaining unchanged. Here is Jasmine Wamboi with a breakdown of how those final pump prices were arrived at.
The starting point in determining fuel prices is a landed cost. This essentially is a total cost incurred to buy and transport petroleum products from global markets to the port of Mombasa. In the latest cycle, that cost rose sharply, with super petrol landing at 107 shillings per litre, diesel at 133 shillings, and kerosene even higher at 170 shillings per litre. This is a reflection of tightening global supply linked to the conflict in the Middle East. And from there, additional costs are layered on. Distribution through pipelines and storage costs added roughly 4 to 5 shillings per litre. Next are oil importers and dealers' margins, which in this cycle averaged at about 17 shillings per litre. Then the biggest chunk comes from taxes and levies. The government has lumped 9 different taxes and levies on petroleum products: excise duty, value-added tax, the Petroleum Development Levy, the Petroleum Regulatory Levy, the Railway Development Levy, the Anti-Adulteration Levy, the Merchant Shipping Levy, the Import Declaration Fee, and the Road Maintenance Levy. These levies and taxes added another 82 shillings on petrol, about 75 shillings for diesel, and 68 shillings for kerosene, making taxation one of the largest drivers of the final pump price.
Certain jurisdictions like in East Africa, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, they don't have VAT on petroleum products for that reason. What they have done is to have a slightly higher excise duty rate on them.
The government then attempted to cushion consumers on 2 fronts. First, it has cut VAT from 16% to 13%, reducing the tax burden slightly.
The Tax Procedures Act empowers the minister to reduce the VAT rate by 25%, either to reduce or to increase by 25%. When you look at the 3%, it's still within the limit.
Second, it tapped into the Petroleum Development Levy Fund and injected 6.2 billion shillings in this pricing cycle alone to stabilize prices. That intervention shows up as a price stabilization adjustment, shaving off 4 shillings for every litre of petrol, 23 shillings for diesel, and a whopping 108 shillings for kerosene. This essentially means that without the stabilization, diesel, for instance, would have jumped by 64 shillings instead of 40. But even with these interventions, the increase in import costs led to a rise in pump prices. In Nairobi, petrol and diesel now retail at 206 shillings, while kerosene remains unchanged at 152 shillings per litre.
When you look at fuel, it touches all sectors. So the impact it will have is supposed to spiral over to different sectors. So to you as a consumer, you're being hit from all angles.
And now the big question is what happens next should the war persist. With a huge part of the stabilization kitty already spent, attention is turning to what Kenyans will face when that buffer runs out, and whether the government can afford further tax cuts at a time when KRA is missing its revenue targets. Jasmine Wamboi, Citizen TV.
Commuters and travelers across the country are already grappling with the immediate impact of the fuel price hike that took effect midnight Tuesday. Commuters are already bearing the brunt after the transport sector players effected the increase in fares, with further adjustments expected as operators reassess their operational cost. The major bus terminals shocked passengers remain stranded, with some forced to cancel their journey as the broader ripple effect, including likely spike in the cost of goods and services, begins to sink. Citizen TV's Ben Kirui takes a look at the impact of the fuel price increase in the public transport sector.
Nairobi's country bus station, the heartbeat of Kenya's public transport network. And it is here that the immediate impact of the latest fuel price hike is already being felt, while the full effect is yet to be realized. A majority of public transport circles affected the new fares, and the rest expected to review and adjust the fares upward in the coming days.
Tumefika hapa, mambo yamekuwa magumu, nauli imepanda sana. Nilikuwa sijajipanga, hata nimefuliza imekataa. Nimejaribu kuweka imekataa kabisa, lakini nashukuru Mungu nimeomba mpaka ikajaa nauli.
Na mimi tujapendeza sana. Tumependeza tu na 300 peke yake. Bei yetu ya kawaida ni 1000 lakini sasa hii ni 1300.
The new fare structure was effected intra-city and for those public service vehicles plying up country roads.
Nimetoka Tasia kukuja huku tumekuja na 80 na kitambo tunapanga 50. Kuna difference ya around 30. Kwenda nyumbani sasa tunalipanga 500 na unaona imekuwa 700. Hiyo ni 200 already imeongezeka na hatukuwa tumetarajia hivyo.
In Nakuru, a section of matatu operators say the sharp rise in fuel prices caught them off guard. They are now reassessing operational cost before effecting the new rates.
40 bob kwa kila gari unakuta imeongezeka like 1600. Hiyo ni 1600 juu. Kwa hivyo lazima tujue vile tutarecover, lakini leo hatujaongeza bei sababu tuna ile stock ya jana ambayo tulikuwa tumeweka mafuta magari zetu kabla mafuta yaongezwe.
Meanwhile, in Bomet, travelers heading to Nairobi will now pay up to 1,500 shillings, an increase of 500 shillings from the previous average fare of between 800 and 1,000.
Because wameongeza 40 bob. Mafuta bei ya usafiri kutoka hapa mpaka Nairobi lazima tutaweka mpaka 1500. Ndio kuche sapa matatu because hii ni biashara.
Sasa tunaomba tu hiyo atupunguzie hiyo bei kabisa. Hii iko juu sana. Na hii serikali tulikuwa tumepigia kura wakisema watatusaidia watu wa chini sana. Lakini sasa tunaona sisi watu wa chini ndio tunaumia sana.
Border riders have also begun raising their charges, passing the burden on to passengers.
Tunahakikishia watu ya kwamba town service ni 50 bob. Sasa ile distance yenye tulikuwa tunaenda na 100, saa hii tumeongeza bei ikue 50 juu.
Sisi hatusimamiwi kuwekea customer bei. Ni wewe ufikirie huyu customer unayopandishia gharama ni ule ambao unamtegemea leo na kesho.
The Truckers Association of Kenya TAC has directed its members to increase transport charges by 30%, citing the surge in fuel cost. With the transport sector serving as a critical pillar of the economy, the ripple effects of the fuel price hike are expected to be far-reaching, driving up the cost of goods and services. As the prices surge, Kenyans are bracing for tougher economic times, with many left with little choice but to tighten their belts. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And the united opposition has threatened to call for nationwide mass action should the government fail to reduce fuel taxes, saying Kenyans can no longer bear the burden of arising from a spike in fuel prices. As Emmanuel Toh now reports, the opposition claims that President William Ruto is the beneficiary of the historic price changes, even as it called for the resignation of Energy CS Opiyo Wandayi and his trade and industry counterpart, Lee Kinyanjui.
The united opposition started by accusing President William Ruto of allegedly profiteering from the record high spike in fuel prices.
Following the April 14, 2026 price adjustment, Mr. William Ruto will earn a profit of Kenya shillings 5 per every litre consumed by the people of Kenya, or the equivalent of 2.5 billion Kenya shillings.
The leaders claimed that the price changes were engineered in the United Arab Emirates by Energy and Petroleum CS Opiyo Wandayi.
These prices were negotiated in Dubai, and if you recall, that is why Opiyo Wandayi was not available when he was summoned by Parliament.
Najua huko tulikuwa tukisema jamaa huyo aende one term, lakini wanaulizana hii one term jameni
itafikika.
The outfit now demanding for the immediate cancellation of the government-to-government petroleum importation framework, removal of VAT on fuel, immediate resignation and prosecution of the CS for Energy and Petroleum Opiyo Wandayi and Trade CS Lee Kinyanjui, removal of housing levy and suspension of the 7 shilling per litre road maintenance levy that was increased from 18 shillings to 25 shillings.
Mr. William Ruto, you must immediately direct the Speaker of the National Assembly, your sycophant, to convene a special sitting of Parliament within 7 days to address the following urgent issues, failure to which the United Government shall call for national mass action.
We should not just be asking Opiyo Wandayi, we should be asking William Ruto himself. You are conflicted, Mr. President. How much is enough for you, Mr. President?
Revenue and expenditure estimates, what we call the budget estimates, will be tabled before the House of Parliament not later than 30th of this month. And therefore, our call for a special sitting should be at this time.
If this issue is not dealt with, this matter of oil, I think we haven't seen the worst yet in terms of the direction our economy is going to take.
This comes as more leaders continue to call for more measures to cushion Kenyans from the impact of the fuel crisis.
The increase is not proportionate to the decrease of the prices of oil, VAT. We plead with the government, with the president, to look for more resources to cushion members of the public. Yes.
I think VAT should be introduced, decreased to a maximum of 6%.
My friends in government, Kenyans will not continue to shoulder the burden of your greed through the dealings of G to G.
This is the right time to call for maandamano. That maandamano that we used to say. And so the cost of production is going to increase, and when it increases, the price of those goods that are produced in those factories are going to increase.
The United Opposition maintains these are their irreducible minimums to President William Ruto, failure to which they will mobilize Kenyans to hit the streets to protect themselves from the hike in the historic rise in fuel prices. Emmanuel Tor, Citizen TV, Karen, Nairobi.
In relation to that, President William Ruto has announced a raft of measures aimed at protecting Kenyans from rising fuel costs, with global supply disruptions linked to the Middle East crisis pushing prices upward. Speaking as he concluded his development tour of the Abagusi region, the head of state said the government has moved to intervene to shield households by reducing the VAT on fuel from 16% to 8%. Here is our political affairs reporter, Stephen Leto.
As the international fuel market continues to experience instability due to the geopolitical tensions, President William Ruto says his administration has gone back to its financial books and reviewed the value-added tax on fuel, cutting it down by half to caution Kenyans from the shocker of the latest fuel prices review.
We have also stepped in to bring down VAT from 16% to 8% for the next 3 months until we make sure that we have gone through this phase, because we want to cushion the people of Kenya from fuel prices.
In its review on Tuesday night, however, EPRA based its price commutation on a VAT rate of 13%, being within the allowed maximum of 25%, reduction by the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary without requiring a parliamentary approval. For the President's proposal to take effect, Parliament may be required to pass a bill taking the VAT rate to what it was before Ruto became President. President William Ruto, who spoke a few hours after EPRA published the fuel review, says the intervention is part of a broader effort to ensure that the cost of living remains manageable for ordinary Kenyans, noting the effect of fuel prices on transport, food manufacturing and basic commodities across the country.
Tumetoa pesa ya serikali bilioni 6.5 ya kufanya subsidy ya mafuta hapa Kenya. tumerudisha chini ile mambo ya VAT kuhakikisha kwamba tuna moderate mambo ya mafuta hapa Kenya. Na mimi nataka niwahakikishie ya kwamba serikali ya Kenya tutafanya juu na chini. Nchi zingine nikiongea na nyinyi hawana mafuta hata katika pumps zao.
President Ruto further noted that there is enough fuel in the country, ruling out a shortage.
Nchi zingine nikiongea na nyinyi hawana mafuta hata katika pumps zao. Hapa Kenya tuko na mafuta ya kutosha.
The president playing down threats by the opposition to call for mass protest to oppose the latest prices at the pump.
Mafuta imeongezeka na imeongezeka duniani kote. Wanataka kufanya maandamano hapa Kenya. Mimi nawauliza, tukifanya maandamano bei ya mafuta itakuja chini? Itakuja chini. Si lazima tutumie akili kupunguza gharama ya mafuta.
The head of state concluded his tour of the Gusii region with promises to deliver all the projects on time. In Kirinyaga County, Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki told of the opposition for misleading Kenyans and resorting to disrespecting leaders.
Hatuwezi kukubali ati tutoke nje, tujenge nyumba, tumalize kujenga, tununue sofa set, tununue TV, alafu wakati nyumba iko ready, tutoke kama wenda wazimu, tuende kupiga kelele tukiwa huko nje. Alafu watu wengine wanakuja kuishi kwa hiyo nyumba. It is not possible. Hii serikali hatutoki.
Stephen Letos, Citizen TV.
Still in relation to that and in response to the price hikes of fuel products, the President's Chief Economic Advisor, Dr. David Ndii, says the government-to-government oil deal remains a viable option 3 years since it was conceived.
If we were to wind it up and go to the market, anybody you could buy petroleum from in this region would be buying from them. So they would be putting a markup on a bigger trading markup because those are the main suppliers. Even when we had the OTS, you are buying from traders who are buying from these companies, especially Aramco and ADNOC. One of the things that G2G enables us to do is to have the local oil companies, the marketing companies, buy their fuel in shillings. Before that, they had to go to the market to buy dollars to pay for their ship.
And regarding the road maintenance levy that was increased from 18 to 25 Kenya shillings and subsequent securitization of the increment, Dr. Ndii maintains that doing away with the levy will undermine the quality of roads across the country.
I think to look at what government could government have done more. Oil price shocks are very common, and they tend to be temporary. So the question you want to ask is whether you want to do things which are very costly and difficult to unwind in response to something which may be very temporary at considerable expense in terms of revenue. Government revenue pressure is quite high. In terms of financing other things, because some of the suggestions are suggesting that we wind down, take away some money from roads that goes into the maintenance of roads. Now, what do you use fuel for? You use fuel for motoring. So should you take money from roads so that you can finance a subsidy that will in the end undermine the quality of roads? I am not sure to respond to something which has long-term effects to deal with something which may be very short-lived is sound policy. I don't think so.
Now, let's do a check across other countries in the East African community. And the record increase in prices of diesel and petrol expected to push up the cost of living in Kenya mirrors adjustments across the East African community. Here is a look at how other countries are faring in the region. In comparison, in Uganda, a landlocked country dependent on Kenya for its oil, a litre of petrol retails at 188 shillings point 67 cents, 18 shillings less than here in Kenya, while a litre of diesel will cost Ugandans 186.93 cents, a difference of 20 shillings according to SpotCheck. In Tanzania, motorists will pay 196.40 cents for a litre of petrol, while they will pay 189.67 cents for diesel, which cost 16 Kenya shillings and 17 Kenya shillings less, respectively, compared to Kenya. This is according to the Energy and Water Utilities Regulatory Authority. In Rwanda, a litre of petrol will retail at 203.57 cents, while a litre of petrol will cost them 194.90 cents. This is according to Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority. In Burundi, a litre of petrol will cost 172.64 cents, while diesel will retail at 169.52 cents, making the landlocked country with the cheapest fuel in the East African community. Let's head to the Senate, and the Energy Committee now says it will question trade CS Lee Kinyanjui and directors of One Petroleum Limited over irregular importation of substandard 60,000 metric tons of fuel into the country outside the government-to-government arrangement. The Parliamentary Energy Watchdog, who conducted an inspection tour of the country's petroleum stocks at Kipevu Oil Storage Facility in Mombasa County, also established that the condemned consignment is still locked up in the country under tight security, awaiting shipment. Seth Olale with the latest parliamentary probe into the fuel scandal.
Investigations into the multi-billion shillings fuel importation scandal has been extended to the port of Mombasa. The Senate Energy Committee were at the Kipevu Oil Storage Facility in Mombasa to seek answers into the irregular importation of the substandard oil. The committee now says it has summoned Trade Cabinet Secretary Lee Kinyanjui to explain under what circumstances he gave approval to the clearance of the substandard consignment.
One Petroleum Limited, the CS Energy and Petroleum, the CS Trade and Industry are coming to our committee next week, including the board chair for IBRA and Kenya Pipeline Limited.
Ile idara ambayo haina hiyo function ya kuangalia standard ya mafuta kuitisha waiver, hiyo ilikuwa makosa na ndio ilifanya hiyo mafuta ikaingia.
Investigations by the Senate Energy Committee have also established that the said consignment is still in the country under tight security at the Kenya Oil Refinery after it was discharged on 27th of March 2026.
But you see the quality haikuwa mzuri na wametueleza hiyo mafuta imewekwa kando, haijaingia market. Ndio sisi tuko hapa kuestablish kama ni ukweli iko kwa soko ama iko kwa soko.
It also remains unclear whether or not the consignment will be shipped out as directed by the Energy Ministry. Kenya Pipeline Company informing the Senate Energy Committee that there is sufficient fuel in the country and that additional 8 vessels will be docking and discharging additional oil products in a fortnight's time. Seth Olale, Citizen TV.
All right. It's all about energy this evening, huh?
The fuel bulletin.
That's why we're calling this show Horns of a Dilemma.
Yeah.
Huh?
The fuel that will equally fund the bench
this evening. And our guests, we've got 3 or 4 right now. Albert Karakacha, president of Matatu Owners Association, is here. We've got engineer Edward Kinyua, director Petroleum and Gas at EPRA. Didi Nyoro, MP from Kiara, is in the house as well. We're awaiting Kimani Kuria, chairman of the Finance and National Planning Committee at the National Assembly. Here the guys. Welcome, gentlemen. We're going to be talking fuel, and more fuel. And what to do going forward. Keep tweeting at Koinange
at Ayub Abdikadir,
at Citizen TV. The hashtag JKLive. JKLive takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Alifu 170 ambao wale wengine ambao wako na makosa kidogo leo wamefikishwa mahakamani.
170 suspected goons arrested in Trans Nzoia County as government begins crackdown on goons and guns countrywide.
Angukia ofa ya On Collection msimu huu upate discount moto when you pay and carry your order from Royal Mabati Factory Limited on the same day. Get corrugated and box profile at 353 shillings per meter. Call us now on 0722 638383.
Sometimes I need a fragrance to keep me calm, stays fresh in the heat and feels elegant into the night, lasting longer than expensive perfumes. New Downy, lavender calm, sunrise fresh and sweet elegance, freshness that inspires confidence.
Some kids are just a step ahead. The winning difference? A spoonful of Blue Band. The only one with the right levels of omega-3 and 6. Blue Band. A spoonful of difference.
At Standard Chartered, family businesses, business owners, and corporate executives have entrusted us with over $2.3 billion.
Your wealth is guided by certified relationship managers who are supported by insurance and investment specialists.
Now is your time for wealth. Join Standard Chartered today.
Makia Mount Kenya. Raha Premium Kavagara na Raha Premium Gano ndio kibuko yao. Emelok nanana nelelek yara talale. Nikanoru kandi kijira niveni zinguru. Anela takage kana na nkero kerenja sietu. Igun agenge en member Kavagara Club.
I wish I could have soft and glowing skin.
New Geisha Black Soap. With activated charcoal to give you soft and glowing skin. New Geisha Black Soap and New Geisha Moringa.
Modern Skills College. Now, here is the good news. We offer short courses for 3 months, such as mobile repair. We train pure practicals and also help you get attachments so that you can start earning immediately. You can contact us through our campuses. Modern Skills, we've got you.
You know what? I've had enough. Someday you're gonna end up eating every word you said about me, and you're gonna end up on your knees regretting the hurtful things you've done to me.
Nimetumia dawa ya Hamigat kwa miaka 3 na ni dawa ya kuaminika kuangamiza fall armyworm kwa mahindi.
Amigad, dawa kamili ya fall armyworm.
It is exactly 30 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to JKLive here at Citizen Television. Now we're talking about these fuel prices that has everybody up in an uproar. On the far side, I've got Kiaro Member of Parliament, Didi Nyoro, in the house. He's the guy who crunches the numbers. And he's saying these fuel prices are ridiculous. Right next to me is Engineer Edward Kinyua. He's the Director of Petroleum and Gas at the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA. And then we've got Matatu Owners Association, Albert Karakacha. He's walking in right now. Come on, karibu sana, karibu. It's all good. And then we're waiting for Kimani Kuria. He's a Chairman, Finance and National Planning Committee. Engineer, we've just got some breaking news like moments ago that what EPRA has decided to do. Break it down for us, please.
Thank you, Jeff. Yesterday we had released prices based on the legal notice that was there. Legal notice number 69 of 2026, which effectively had reduced the VAT level from 16% to 13%. So the prices we published yesterday were basically based on that 13% VAT, which was a reduction of 3%. But of course today, as per the directive from His Excellency, VAT has been reduced again from 13% to 8%. That's why you've seen that press release which has just come out now, reducing the price of super petrol, which we call PMS, by 9 shillings and 37 cents, and also reducing the price of diesel, which we call automotive gas oil, by another 10 shillings to retail now at 196.
So from 206, which was petrol, right?
Yes.
Reduced by 9 shillings.
9 shillings and 37 cents.
So it comes down to about
197.
97. Is that effective immediately? Will we see that at the pumps immediately?
The way the notice has been done, it will be effective from midnight today, which is jumping from 15th to 16th. Because we normally have cut-off lines, because we are cognizant that even petrol stations have their own operational times. Most of them will change prices at midnight, so that is why we have indicated 16th.
Yeah.
So by tomorrow morning, when people wake up, now the pumps will be reflective of that change.
Mahesh, does that make any sense?
Thank you very much, Jeff, for having us today. I actually thought you'd have the chairman of Boda Boda Association. I would have been very glad to meet the Kenyans who are going through these very, very tough situations, especially in the specific industries. From the onset, Jeff, I have to say that I'm a very disappointed Kenyan and a leader, and especially a person who participated in a big way in selling a message to Kenyans, and especially Kenyans who really need to be supported through decision-making in terms of leadership. I've been speaking about this matter of fuel since 28th of February. And whatever is happening is not an emergency to Kenya. Kenya knew we will be in this kind of a situation from 28th of February. And I've actually been doing press conferences every week, calling upon the people in government to at least afford time to think about this very critical issue about fuel. But of course, they bought time. Up until yesterday. Even yesterday, I was with a part of your team, again challenging the government that when you have instruments of power, you cannot again continue promising the people, and especially when you have abundance of time. So what happened yesterday, Jeff, is that even by the time EPRA sent whatever they sent to the newsrooms, they were still consulting up to late in the night, that the government had actually not made up their mind on what would be the pump prices in Kenya. But to put it into context, number one, let us be a country that follows our laws. We all have given proposals, including today, which I will repeat here in this show. And I actually should start with them so that I come now to the specific one you've asked. In my interaction with the media today and yesterday, I challenged the government to do 3 things. One was to lower VAT in the intervening period up to 8%. But in the medium term, to lower it much more to VAT exempt. On that 5% alone, the pump price would go down by around 9 shillings, as it was done this evening. But there are 2 other things, critical things that we must do, and underline must, that Kenya must do away with the 7 shillings fuel levy that was done by the government in the year 2024. So that is knocking again another 7 shillings. Jeff, there is something called Fuel Stabilization Fund in Kenya, paid for by Kenyans through PDL. It has close to 17 billion Kenya shillings. And that is the fund we use to give subsidies, or the government should use to smoothen and to give Kenyans reprieve at a time like this. They have only drawn in around 6 billion. I'm challenging them to draw in another 5 billion so that we give an extra subsidy of 12 shillings. In my calculation, which I did, and I hope you shared in your news, through my proposals, which are 3, we would reduce pump prices by 27 shillings by tomorrow morning. Because the choice we have to make, Jeff, is between making an adjustment that will spiral within our economy or then live with it. And there are many ramifications. We can choose to spend money. The proposal I'm giving will cost around 12 billion per month. The problem the world is facing and Kenya is facing is not long-term. But there are decisions we'd make today that you'll have long-term ramifications. Anytime you have adjustments upwards, let me use an example with my brother here. When you announce fares adjustments upwards, tell me when you ever saw a press conference, therefore, talking about downward trend, because there is adjustment downwards.
Never.
Because upward prices are always sticky. So I'm challenging the government. We bite the bullet. Our economy can afford to actually chip in the 12 billion shillings so that we knock off 27 shillings. Why? On this other side, we then arrest Aspiro towards all the inputs of production, from labor in terms of transportation. When you come to work as an agent of the economy, you spend money on fare. That is an input. So we cut off that. We knock off in terms of manufacturing. The cost of electricity, part of the component in Kenya is fuel. Why can't we spend this money to arrest a spiral that would be sticky to the economy? Okay. And that is my proposal.
Hold that thought. Albert Karagacha, let me ask you this as Matatu Owners Association. You've already raised your prices.
Yeah, we raised.
You've already increased your prices.
Yes.
I mean, come on, man. The local Mwananchi, he's going to be suffering. Even though they've been reduced as of midnight tonight, your prices are still up there.
They're still up there because we've just got the information right now. And to us, what we are saying, we still demand more. Because if you go to the market, the commodities are still high. Go to the spares, they will still be high. Go to the tires we are using, they are still high. So we still demand for more. The way Mheshimiwa has said, I think the government need to go deeper into what has come up about the issue of the fuel to see, because if you go to other countries, they have reserve. When you come to Kenya, there's no reserve. We need to think about the reserve for maybe the next 6 months, 9 months. We should not condemn about the issue of Iran. We could be ahead of Iran. So to us, we still demand more.
Engineer, with the breaking news, in case people are just joining us right now, what you just told us a moment ago, could you just repeat what EPRA, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, has just announced tonight?
Yes, to our viewers, we just reduced the prices of super petrol, which we call premium motor spirit, by another 9 shillings and 37 cents, which effectively now brings the price from 206 to 197. And then we have also reduced the price of diesel from 206.84 by another 10 shillings to 196. The reason why we've done that is because we have a new legal notice that has just been published in line with His Excellency's directive, the President of the Republic, that VAT on fuel reduces from 13%, where it was left yesterday, by legal notice number 69. So we have legal notice now number 70, which has effectively brought it down to 8%. Yeah.
Let me ask you this real quick. Can the president just make an announcement just arbitrarily like that, or does it have to go through Parliament?
Let me answer it in 2 ways, Jeff. One playbook that you must have mastered from this government is that when you run out of options for people to celebrate you, you actually forcibly create a situation. And this government's playbook is very direct. You don't need to be an expert or to have been very close to them to see that you make things so bad so that when you make them a little bit better, then you expect people to celebrate you. You know that rich man in the village who would come and shoot a villager by the foot and then call a harabe in the village, and they appear. The same person who shot the young man, and tells the villagers, I'll take up this bill out of the money you've contributed, the balance, I'm the one to pay. And then you want people to celebrate you. First of all, you are the cause. You are the person who shot this young man. And secondly, even if you pay the bill, you still leave them with the wood. That is the playbook that this government plays with. Because we have had time to do all these adjustments, but we never did. But let me now come to your question. The changes in terms of VAT in Kenya are guided by the VAT Act. If you read the section 6 of the VAT Act, and especially part 1 and 2, it is very clear that the minister may actually give a proclamation through a gazette notice varying VAT, but there is a rider, only up to 25% of the amount of consideration. So the VAT in Kenya now, the composition of the fuel, and I'll be using petrol for in this conversation, is approximately 25 shillings in terms of VAT. So you can only give a proclamation as a minister to the extent of a quarter of that. Additionally, if you have to do more than that, then there has to be a policy emanating from the National Treasury itself. Then it comes to Parliament, so that we amend the VAT Act. So as it starts now, the roadside declaration that was done today, number one, is a total show of ineptitude. One, because we had time to do the right thing, but number two, it is actually not provided for anywhere. So I challenge even my brother here to tell Kenyans, if you have a fuel dealer tomorrow, you'll be selling downward of the VAT, the one you have read today here. What legal instrument will the guy, is the dealer going to request for the refund? Because as it is now, until we change the law, you can only vary up to 25% of the VAT of any element. Secondly, I am wondering what actually my brother is doing, with all due respect and humbly. Why? He's representing a very fundamental organ here called EPRA. But who sets the fuel prices in Kenya as we saw today? Who sets? What you've read today, is it EPRA that set it? Jeff, is it EPRA?
It doesn't
It's a roadside declaration.
Yeah.
So all I'm trying to say is that we must not continue to expose, especially the leadership, to expose the ineptitude in terms of leadership to the Kenyan people. And especially when we had all the time over 40 days to do the right thing.
Engineer, you've just been challenged right there.
Yeah.
You've just been challenged.
Yeah, we are creatures of the law ourselves, and whatever we put in our pricing is guided by law. Starting from the pricing regulation itself, in terms of the price formula that we have, it is gazetted in law. And there's nothing that we can put in that build-up of the cost without having a legal instrument. Today, I've just said we just received a legal notice number 70, which is an instrument of law, so which tells us to reduce VAT on fuel from 13% to 8%. And that is exactly what we've done. We are creatures of the law. As to how it has been done, I think as we work with the law that is already published and is there. And I think, I'm not a politician myself, but I think politicians like my brother here, Mheshimiwa, talk from both sides of the mouth. On one side, they are telling the government we need interventions to cushion mwananchi, because as we are working from fundamentals, we're looking at the cost of the international cost of fuel in the international market. We all know that on the 28th of February this year, there's civil strife or some tensions that arose in the Middle East, which is one of our biggest source markets for products in terms of petroleum products. And of course, all of us are aware that there's a strait called the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the world oil passes. And if you remove from the equation of the world 20% of supply, of course, demand will outstrip supply, and that has an effect on the price. And this is something that we've seen. The barrel has moved from $60 that we had seen somewhere in February. Today we are talking of $101 per barrel. So that is a reality in life, and it has reflected itself with the cargoes that we are receiving. So when we apply the fundamentals we have in law in terms of the formula, the landed cost, the cost of storage and distribution, the supply margins, and of course taxes and levies. Taxes and levies, which my brother Mheshimiwa is talking about, is basically supported by law. And this is what I was saying. We can basically support all those taxes with legal instruments. So when we put all those fundamentals together, they yield a price.
What if I go to my petrol station tomorrow morning and they haven't reduced the prices? What do I do?
That one you're supposed to report them to ourselves, because they will have breached the licensing conditions, and there are sanctions to it, including revocation of their license.
And now, Karakata, are you going to reduce prices tomorrow now that prices have been reduced? Are you going to do it real quick?
You see, the way Mheshimiwa said, you see, we have already fixed our prices, so we need to consult our members. And we cannot just...
Are you going to consult?
Yeah, we have to consult our membership.
So tomorrow you're charging, you're still charging what you said?
We will still charge what we've already increased. And if you see there, we are still demanding for more, because that fuel, where the prices we've been shown there, it is still high to us, because if you check the business we are doing right now, let's go to the roads. Right now, we have potholes in Nairobi, yeah, which are not being repaired. So you can imagine we are still going.
You're talking about potholes, and we're talking about fuel prices, but
no, you have to merge.
Bro, see you nyinyi peke. Gentlemen, I want to take a break, right? Come back and talk about more. And Kimani Kuria, the chairman of the Finance Committee, Finance and National Planning Committee, will be joining us very shortly. We'll talk more about this in a little short moment. Ayub, what you got?
Well, plenty on the bench later. Police in Trans Nzoia County have arrested 170 suspects following last Saturday's incident in Kitale town, where alleged hired goons disrupted a youth voter registration drive under the Niko Kadi initiative, paralyzing business in the town. This comes as Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen announced that the National Police Service has revised its curriculum to address emerging threats, including crowd control and goons, accusing some politicians, though unnamed, of deploying youth into gangs to cause chaos. Willie Lusige has that report.
Days after goons allegedly disrupted a youth voter registration drive under Niko Kadi initiative in Kitale and almost paralyzed business in the town, police say 170 suspects have been arrested in a major operation linked to the incident, with more than 200 mobile phones and weapons recovered.
Wahalifu 170 ambao wale wengine ambao wako na makosa kidogo kidogo leo wamefikishwa mahakamani.
Police say some suspects are hardcore criminals, including escaped inmates, and warn the operation will continue until all goons are arrested.
Baadhi ya wale ambao tumekamata wahalifu sugu, maabusu 5 ambao walitoroka Kiungani Police Station tarehe 12 mwezi wa kwanza. Wale wahuni ambao wanatumika goons kama vile ilivyoshuhudiwa siku ya Jumamosi, baadhi tumepata na wale wamebaki bado tutawatafuta mpaka tuwapate.
Meanwhile, Interior Cabinet Secretary Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, speaking in Embakasi during a visit to police recruits, said politicians are the biggest security threat, accusing them of recruiting youth into gangs to cause chaos.
Political leaders, particularly, are expected to ensure that they keep our country safe, have become the greatest threat to our security as a nation. That threat surrounds around recruitment of young people. They use them to cause chaos in the name of goons and gangs.
Murkomen said the situation has forced the National Police Service to revise its curriculum and retrain officers on crowd control and dealing with goons to end a problem on the rise in the last 3 years.
And therefore, crowd management, crowd control, use of force, including the legal and constitutional principles on when you can be able to use force, have become part and parcel of the training.
Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja urged officers, even with their new advanced skills, to respect the law and human rights in the course of their duty.
The only way to survive and enjoy your employment as a police officer is by upholding discipline. Any contrary behavior will be very detrimental to you and to your career progression.
Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, parliamentary inquiry into alleged organ trafficking at Medihill Hospital has cleared the facility of any wrongdoing, but raised serious concerns about gaps in Kenya's transplant regulatory system. A report tabled before the Senate Health Committee also established that claims of organ harvesting at the hospital were not corroborated. However, lawmakers have sounded the alarm over weak oversight and the lack of operational transplant laws. They are now calling for urgent and far-reaching legal reforms to safeguard the integrity of organ transplant services in the country. Here's Emily Chebet with that report.
The committee, chaired by Honorable Dr. James Nyika, launched its inquiry almost 1 year ago, immediately after an order of suspension by Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale of all kidney transplant services at the Eldoret-based hospital, following allegations of malpractice and ethical violations. In their findings, the committee revealed it reviewed extensive submissions, had sworn testimonies, and consulted key government agencies between June and November 2025. After nearly a year-long probe, job. The committee says it found no evidence that the facility associated with former Keses Member of Parliament Swarup Mishra had violated medical ethics. The report also recommends lifting sanctions on Medihill Hospital and 2 other Eldoret-based facilities previously implicated in the saga, St. Luke's Orthopedic and Trauma Hospital and Oak Tree Center for Kidney and Chronic Disease. But despite clearing the hospital, the report highlights major weaknesses in Kenya's legal and regulatory framework governing organ transplants. The lawmakers saying existing laws have not been fully implemented, allowing transplant facilities to operate largely on internal guidelines with limited oversight. The committee is now pushing for a comprehensive new law to govern blood, cell and organ transplants, including the establishment of a national organ transplant authority and a transparent, accountable organ allocation system. It is also urging the Health Ministry to fast-track regulations required under the Health Act and develop a national transplant policy aligned with universal health coverage goals. The committee has further called on the Independent Policing Oversight Authority to investigate allegations of law enforcement failures at Langas Police Station in addressing the report filed by the public regarding the alleged unethical kidney transplant activities at Medihill Hospital and alleged interference with the due administration of justice and intimidation of witnesses and their families by police officers. The lawmakers also want the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to investigate the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council's potential regulatory failure arising from its documented failure to act upon multiple written complaints regarding alleged illegalities regarding organ transplant across the country. Emily Chebet, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Kenya sustains push for nuclear power to lower energy cost and drive industrialization.
Changamkia our own collection offer and get additional discounts when you pick up your order from Royal Mabati Factory Limited. Get Decatile at 500 shillings per piece. Call us now on 0722 638383.
Kibao kila wiki na Carrefour. Enjoy Pepsi assorted soda 2 liters at 118 shillings. Menengai bar soap cream 1 kg at 172 shillings. Brampton's microwave at 9,999 shillings. And Samsung 55-inch TV at 58,995 shillings. Deals kibao kila wiki na Carrefour.
Dial *811*272# to get Finale as your skiza tune.
Kote nchini mbele tuendelee.
Kenya Twende Mbele. NCBA. Go for it.
Citizen Duka, the home of discount.
Are you building? Then you know roofing means you're almost home. At Citizen Duka, we provide premium glossy mabati crafted for durability, protection, and backed by warranty on every mabati you purchase. Box profile glossy, sleek, modern, and bold style. Corrugated glossy, strong and timeless, plus many other reliable mabati profiles to choose from. High quality, weather resistant, a shine that lasts for years. Order easily at citizenduka.com. Select Vintage Mabati or simply WhatsApp your order to 0710-487-487 and we will deliver straight to your site for free. Citizen Duka, your home of discounts.
Citizen Duka, the home of discount.
Experience Swiss-based education in the heart of Nairobi. Through immersive hands-on training, we prepare you for the real careers in culinary arts and patisserie, international hospitality management, and events management. Programs shaped by global standards and industry practice. Develop skills that employers actively seek. Access international placements, travel, work, and grow through global networks as you position yourself as a future leader in hospitality and events. Welcome to the Boma International Hospitality College. Admissions now open for May intakes.
Your smile. Your existence cures my pain.
It is 3 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back to JKLive here at Citizen Television. We're talking fuel prices. I know all of you, every one of you, are wondering what's the way forward. Right next to me is engineer Edward Kinyua. He's from the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, that's EPRA. Right next to him is Albert Karakacha. He's the president of Matatu Owners Association. And on the far end, Didi Nyoro, MP, Kiharu, the man who crunches the numbers. And I was asking you, Bwana Karakacha, tomorrow, prices zitashuka?
You see,
for
now we cannot...
come on, man. You can announce to your people. They're listening to you.
We have to go and sit. There is a committee which decide. So I have to go and sit down with them. From there, we will be able to communicate to the media. But for now, we can't do anything. It just come right now, so there is nothing we can do.
Muhesh,
yeah.
You know, that's not fair. Huh? It's not fair on Wananchi.
It's not fair on Wananchi to have a government that had to wait for over 40 days to know that they needed to do something about the oil prices in Kenya. Yet Kenya is part of the global economy, and we were all acutely aware of what is happening. But Jeff, whatever the government is doing is actually scratching the surface. Let's start there. Because the prices of fuel in Kenya is not reflective of what it ought to be. And I'll use some comparative analysis on it so that we go sequentially. And in this kind of negotiations or discussions we are having them so that we can get some optimal level for Kenyans to get reprieve. Let me start with what the government has done today. And I told you in my other engagement here today that the government is trying to shoot you, call a harabe for you, and purport to pay for your hospital bill and leave you with the wood. Because it was first their responsibility to do the right thing, which they have not done, and whatever they have done is inadequate. I want us to compare the fuel prices now, today, so that we see what ought to be in 2022 and also the region. Oil per barrel in 2022, around May, was around $115 per barrel in 2022. But the amount Kenyans paid in the pump, the highest ever they paid, was $160 for petrol and $140 for diesel. That is 2022. Currently, the barrel of oil now, today as we talk, is not even 101. It is $98 per barrel, as it is today.
It's under 100.
Under 100. But what are Kenyans paying before now, whatever we are reading and seeing now? 206. So we had global oil prices trading at $115 per barrel in 2022. But Kenyans were paying $160 and $140 for petrol and diesel, respectively. Now we have a much lower price of 98, even after the bullish oil market. We are still lower than the levels of 2022. But in Kenya, we are at unprecedented levels in terms of pump prices. That's comparative Kenya for Kenya. But tell me this, because I've seen you play some videos here.
Yes.
All the fuel requirements of Uganda, or most of it, pass through our port.
Yeah.
Because our brothers and sisters are landlocked. That we are here talking about fuel prices in Kenya being the highest in the region. Higher than Rwanda, higher than Uganda, higher than Tanzania, higher than Ethiopia, and higher than Burundi. Kenya, a premier economy. There is something we have to do about that. And this is it that we need to do. In a non-oil producing economy like Kenya, you only have to deal with one thing as a government. Government holistically, including EPRA and the National Treasury. Your freedom of flexibility is within the levies and taxes. And the government has a 48% chance of putting our oil prices the way they were unchanged. They have that in their hand. And this is how. When oil was still 206, and I'll use petrol, 206, 82 shillings of what you are paying in the pump at 206 is going to government through levies and taxes in this manner.
Which is very high. I mean,
in this manner. One, around 24.9, or let's say approximately 25 shillings into VAT. Excise duty, excise tax, 21 shillings. Fuel levy, we are talking about 25 shillings. PRL, we are talking about 0.75 shillings. RDL, we are talking about 2.05 shillings. PDL, we are talking about 5.4 shillings. All those elements are a creation of the executive. The parliament only comes in terms of being a conveyor belt. So the request Kenyans are having is as follows. The government and Kenyans are asking and demanding, take us back to the level of levies and taxes as you got them. Listen here, Jeff. Kenyans are not asking anything additional. Place Kenyans to the PDL they got. Take Kenyans back to the VAT as this government took over. Take Kenyans back to the fuel levy as you got it. If we do that, as I said in my opening remarks, we knock off now VAT 9 shillings. Immediately through a gazette notice, the Minister for Transport should issue a gazette notice tomorrow, doing away with the 7 shillings. That is a creation of this government in 2022. Additionally, and I'm repeating because this is the most critical point, fuel stabilization fund is not a grant. As you fuel your car today, Jeff, unatolewa shilingi 5 na 40 cents. Na haitolewi kwa sababu ni kodi. Inatolewa kwa usiku mbaya. Kama huu.
Lakini, these are the taxes that William Ruto used to talk about before he was president, and you supported him. You supported him.
I supported him, Jeff. My failure, man. My regret. What do I say? It's a disappointing day for Kenyans today. That we thought the person we called the hustler, the border rider, the matatu operator, we thought we are selling a very good narrative which we ought to have done for them. And if you check all my records, I've been consistent in terms of the inputs of production. And I wish the people in government can come back to their senses to realize a border rider is an agent of the economy who needs a lot of thought in terms of government so that we make their lives and their businesses better. A matatu operator now will be going to UGA in this spiral effect. We'll be going all the way to inflation. Check inflation figures for April. In the US, it's already up by 0.9% CPI, Consumer Price Index. Wait for our own here in Kenya by end of this April. So what you are trying to say, even without accusing anyone, the instruments of retaining the oil prices as they were at the ranges of 180 are in the hands of government. And they will not borrow a coin. Fuel Stabilization Fund, as I talk to you, has 17 billion shillings.
But you want to use 12 billion of it a month?
Because the problem we have is temporal. And some of the decisions we'll make now will be sticky in the many months.
Engineer, let me ask you this. Yes. Landing cost for fuel is 107 shillings for petrol, right? Yes. 107 shillings. And then by the time it gets to the pump, 206 shillings. That's almost double.
Yeah.
And Kenya is not a landlocked country.
Well, I think the landed cost itself constitutes about 51% like of petrol, that is super petrol. Of course, the bulk of the other cost is taxes, which is about 82 shillings for super petrol. And of course, it's those 9 taxes that Mheshimiwa has talked about. But of course, these taxes are formulated through policy and also through a legislative process. And I'm happy Mheshimiwa has just used the word that Parliament is the one that approves these taxes. And of course, as being creatures of the law, we just implement those taxes. I believe unless there's a policy decision that will be made to reverse those taxes, or a legislative decision as we continue implementing the taxes as they are, because we believe by the time those taxes are formulated, there's an analysis that has been done on the fiscals for the country, and for sure it is seen fit that the only way to raise money is through that taxation. My brother Mheshimiwa has talked about the stabilization fund. Yes, indeed, we have the PDL, which is a petroleum development levy, which basically per litre we are levying about 5 shillings and 40 cents for diesel and super petrol. Kerosene we levy about 40 cents. But I think we have also to live responsibly, and I think what the government has done through His Excellency is to provide a 6 billion cushion for this pricing, because if we could not have provided that cushion, super petrol would be retailing at 217 shillings per litre if we were to apply the formula the way it is. Diesel would have gone up to 236. But I think we cannot live as if there's no tomorrow. Nobody knows how long this crisis will take. Our projection is it may take 3 to 6 months. So if you have 17 billion in your kitty, do you spend 12 billion today, and tomorrow when prices go up, what do you tell Kenyans? So you have to balance, and it's a balancing equation. And of course, my brother Mheshimiwa has also talked about crude oil prices being 98 shillings today. If you checked earlier, they were about 101. They keep on changing. But look at how we do pricing. We consider the month average. Within the same month, that crude hit $156 per barrel. So there were highs and lows. It depends on when the fuel cargo was ordered. So if you ordered it when the price was so high, because the pronunciations we are seeing from bigger economies like the US, when the president of the US says they will blockade the Strait of Hormuz, it has a ripple effect. So assuming at that point is when I'm ordering my cargo, the price will be on the roof. So as we do an average, so that's why comparing the crude oil price today and the one in 2022 may not work perfectly. Also, we look at the region, the countries in the region, we have different pricing methodologies, whereas Kenya has a lag of 30 days. The fuel we are consuming now is priced 30 days. It has a lag of 30 days. The other countries have a lag of between 45 and 60 days. So some of those countries are still using prices of January and February, which were very low. We are now currently in March pricing, which is very high. So we cannot, that is not comparing like for like. The methodologies are quite different.
Let me ask you this, engineer, real quick. This is the same administration that moved the VAT from 8 to 16%, right? And also the fuel levy went from 18 shillings to 25 shillings.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't we overburdening Kenyans here?
So this is what I was saying, Jeff. By the time that decision is made at policy level and also at the legislative level, there is a need. And the people who do budget and the fiscals, they find the only way to plug maybe a deficit we have is to move that direction. But I think His Excellency has shown goodwill today by saying, I can take a hit. Despite me having budgeted for VAT for a certain X amount, I can take a hit just to cushion mwananchi. And let me reiterate that already we have 6 billion that is going into subsidizing the current prices, in addition to that drop from 13% of VAT to 8%, which constitutes another like 3.9 billion.
So, Albert Karagacha, let me ask you this. The government has reduced the prices.
True.
You says you have to consult with your various organizations.
True.
How long is that going to take?
Okay, we need to be given more time.
More time?
Hopefully,
How much more time do you want?
You see, if you go all over, when the price goes up, we will still maintain there. We are businessmen. We cannot just wake up and decide we have to bring the prices down. So maybe we are given 2 to 3 days. We'll be able to communicate through media. Yes. And maybe what we'll be saying that the president said the other day that there is cartels in the fuel why don't the president do something about those cartels? Because if we are having cartels in fuel, we will still continue having the problems we are having. So he need to make sure that those guys are arrested. We saw some 3 guys the other day. Up to now, there's nothing which is coming up.
But millions of Kenyans use public transportation. You know that.
We know very well 70% of the common person, they are using transport that is PSV. But what we are saying, we still have other commodities. If you go to spare parts, they are still high. Go to, let's say, buying a vehicle right now. 2 years ago, we could spend around 4 million. Right now, we are spending around how much? 7 million to buy a minibus. So you can imagine, it has just risen up, and we are really suffering. If you go to the business, there is that what we call corruption within the police sector, which is still rampant in the PSV sector. So what we are saying, we are really suffering as the businessman down there. The government needs to listen so that from there they need to consult.
Lakini hata mnacheza siasa kidogo bana.
We are not playing politics.
Yeah, siasa, bro.
We don't play politics. I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician.
You can make a call to your people and say, you know, from tomorrow, if the prices go down to 196, prices of matatus will also go down.
You see, to us, 196 is still on the higher side. The government need to do something about it, because we carry almost 70% of the passengers. So they need to do more about it, yes.
Mahesh?
Yeah.
This is going to come to it's going to hit the wall at some point.
The blame squarely goes to government for taking Kenyans for a ride for over 40 days. And I keep repeating in this show, this is not an emergency that happened yesterday night. We knew, we've been talking about it. And we started early telling the government that they should not give Kenyans scapegoats.
Yeah.
Scapegoats like the Strait of Hormuz. There is no fuel in Kenya that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Even the one that was in Mombasa never passed through there. So it is important that we keep on communicating clearly. The bigger element is this, Jeff. And I hope you have time for it. The bigger element is that as Kenyans cry in the pump today and tomorrow and the days to come, our leaders are celebrating because they are the owners of G2G. They are making profits as Kenyans cry in the pump. And I hope you'll give us time so that by tonight Kenyans will know who are the owners of G2G companies and why have they been taking advantage of Kenyans. That leaders are elected to lead so that we can alleviate the situation of the Kenyan people. But leaders in Kenya have chosen to do business in the oil sector. That G2G and the vehicles in there are vehicles of patronage of people in high offices. That is, we are here debating about very high prices of fuel. Leaders in Kenya are buying money printing, money counting machines because of the profits they are making. It is ridiculous. It is very embarrassing. And I hope you'll give us time.
Absolutely.
Talk about G2G.
Yes.
To talk about patronage in the oil in Turkana, which has also been taken over by the leadership of this country.
Absolutely. In fact, Kimani Kuria, chairman of the Finance and National Planning Committee, has arrived, finally. Karibu, Mheshimiwa, karibu. We've been waiting for you all this time, man.
Asante.
How you doing? Karibu sana. Karibu.
Very good.
Karibu.
Comrade.
Well, I'm sure you were listening to part of this conversation. You know, we're in a bit of trouble. We're in a fix here. We're in a fix. Huh? Where do we go from here?
One of the things that we must agree that we're in a global crisis.
That's what the engineer here was saying, global crisis, but come on, man. You know.
Sawa. Na sio mara ya kwanza kujipata hapa. Tumekuwa hapa hapo awali. Na nikimsikiza kama ndugu yangu, we call each other comrade because we were both graduates from Kenyatta University. Tulikuwa hapa awali pamoja. Na tulifanya nini wakati tulikuwa hapo? Unakumbuka wakati ya COVID, wakati tulijipata hapa kwamba bei ya mafuta ilianza kupanda, tuweza kupunguza VAT kutoka 16% tukafikisha 8%. Na mheshimiwa hapa, niseme huo wakati alikuwa mwenyekiti wa kamati ya bajeti, nilikuwa mwenyekiti wa kamati ya finance. Na sisi wawili tuliweza talk to our fellow colleagues in parliament kuongeza bei ya mafuta kutoka 8% to 16%. Kwa sababu gani? Kwa sababu ya ile vitu tunaongea kuhusu VAT returns. Na wakati huo tulikuwa tunaongea kuhusu sauti moja. Lakini sasa tunajipata mahali ambapo yeye yako na sauti tofauti kuliko sisi, na tunaelewana kwa sababu ameenda mlengo mwingine, which is okay. But what do we practically need to do? Ya kwanza ni kupunguza bei ya VAT ya mafuta yetu. Na waziri wetu wa mipango ya fedha na mipango ya kitaifa, Mheshimiwa Bandi, ameweza kupunguza hiyo kulingana na gazette notice ya leo kutoka 16% akafikisha 13%. So hiyo imeweza kupunguza the impact ya bei ya mafuta. Number 2, ni nini nyingine ambayo ilikuwa inafanya iongoze bei ya mafuta? Ilikuwa mambo ya kulikuwa na broker wengi hapa katikati. Na hiyo ndio tuliweza kupunguza kupigia ile G2G agreement ambayo inasema ya kwamba sisi tunanunua sasa sio kwa sababu ya wale marketers, tunanunua directly mafuta kutoka kwa wale ambao wanatuuzia katika nchi ya kigeni. Number 2. Number 3, ile kitu ambayo ilikuwa inaongeza bei ya mafuta zaidi ni ile ilikuwa inaitwa exchange rate ambayo iliweza kupunguka kutoka 160 kwa dola moja hadi sasa tuko 130 kwa moja. Kwa hivyo yale ambayo tunaangazia, the challenges we are facing now, sio ya kwamba ni sisi ya create. They are not our own creation. Ni mambo ambayo yamechangiwa kulingana na mambo ya kitaifa. Lakini jinsi ambayo tunaweza kujiuliza ni Jeff, haya, hii shida si yetu, ni ya global, ni ya international. So how do we handle those problems? Lakini mshukuru kwanza mwenzangu kwa sababu uzuri watu wa Kenyatta University ni watu werevu. So niangalia settlement yake nikaona hana tu kulalamika. Si kama wale wenzetu wengine ambao walalamika peke yake. Alikuwa anaangazia hii ndio shida na haya ndio solutions. So what solutions do we have to do? Moja hapo ni kupunguza VAT. Ambapo waziri wetu wa fedha na mipango ya kitaifa Mheshimiwa Bandi ameweza kupunguza. Namba 2, how do we cushion our Kenyans more? Because for sure we don't make one oil. Na tukubaliana hivyo Jeff. We made politics about this issue of fuel as much as we want. But the truth is hakuna mafuta yanatoka Murang'a, hakuna mafuta yanatoka Nakuru, hakuna mafuta yanatoka Molo. The least we have is tukona deposit kidogo tumepata Turkana, but we still need to refine it ndiweze kutumika kama mafuta. So we don't have our own solution. So how do we make sure that we cushion ourselves against this global crisis that is facing us? Bila kuweka siasa, bila kuweka chuki, bila kuweka kuonekana mimi ndiye napendekeza zaidi solution kuliko wale watu wengine. And once we have that agreement, Jeff, we'll get a solution.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
The VAT Act was an act of parliament.
Yes.
From 8 to 16%.
Yes.
The president today says, let's go back to 8%.
Yes.
Does the CS for Treasury have the authority
exactly
to approve that?
Kabisa.
Anaweza?
Kabisa ndio.
Na parliament?
Nikukumbusha hapo zaidi, wakati tulikuwa wakati ya COVID, tuliweza Mheshimiwa Rais ambaye alikuwa pale, Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, aliweza kupunguza VAT wakati huo. Na if you remember that time, kuna kubalika watu this would be a crowd. Haikuwezekana kwamba wabunge wapatane kwa kikao kimoja. Yeah. Lakini Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta aliweza kupunguza VAT ya bidhaa mingi, nafikiri kutoka 16% around I think it was 14% that time. So ni ukweli kwamba kulingana na our VAT Act yetu, CS National Treasury ana uwezo wa kupunguza through a gazette notice VAT ya mafuta up that amount, na kuna uwezo huo.
I know you want to respond to Mheshimiwa real quick before we take a break. Real quick.
Jeff, I want to respond quickly, but to have 4 points. One, I'm very disappointed with my brother.
Who you graduated?
No, he was way ahead of me.
When we come to such a show, we must respect Kenyans by soberly looking at the issues at hand. soberly, and especially when we know that millions of Kenyans are watching. It is important we come to such a show sober with facts, and especially when we have responsibility. And I want to start here. Number one is that there is no, my brother here is the chair of finance in the parliament today. If we read the VAT Act, section 6, part 1 and 2, it's very clear that we have to go to parliament now to lower VAT by more than 25%. The minister can only deal with around 25% of that. Secondly, I want to remind all of us, during Corona time or COVID, I was not neither chairman nor part of the budget committee. My brother here was also not even the chairman of the finance committee. So it's good that we lay the facts bare. Other people were taking responsibility, but we're also not running away from this responsibility. Number 3 is that we are talking about we removed the brokers in the fuel industry. And I agree. We removed the people who are dealing with the oil in the oil sector competitively, so that we consolidate the opportunity through G2G, so that the leadership of the country can profit out of the oil industry. And that is why in the same G2G he cited, the company that handles 75% of the volumes, which is an instrument of patronage, they are the same people doing upstream oil in Turkana. That even the same oil he's talking about, Turkana oil, has been taken over as a personal property, as patronage, political patronage by leaders. The other point that I want to highlight is I keep hearing some hurabaloo, some bravado around exchange rate. And I'm talking about issues that Kenyans can verify today. I have heard here in this show, and I have heard previously from the people in government giving us some lecture. Oh, we reduced the dollar from, I don't know, 160 to 130. This is the fact, Jeff. During the day of election and during the day of swearing in, the Kenya, which is 2022, when President Uhuru Kenyatta was president, the USD to Kenya shillings was 119 and 121 shillings respectively between the day of election and the day of swearing in. It is the same government through the syndrome I described earlier, which took the dollar to 160 in the year 2024. So you come here, make the situation so bad, and then you want to tell us you have made it better. The Kenya shillings was stronger in 2022 than now. And if you want to compare that, don't just use the dollar to give us semantics. Use the other global currencies. The dollar during the election day was 120, is now around 130. Look at the euro. The euro was around 116, it's now around 150. 150, yeah. Between 116 and 150, when is the shilling stronger? It is back then. The Great British pound, the Great Britain pound, the pound was 136 in the year 2022. It is now 174. So in such a crisis like this, the least you can do is to come on TV and purport to misinform Kenyans. Kenyans are learned. Anyone coming, especially from government apologists, they must come and face Kenyans at least with respect of facts.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, I want to take a break, come back, talk more. And that G2G that you talked about, Mheshimiwa, there's some companies here that are listed, right? Aramco, Abu Dhabi, ADNOC, all these companies. Who are they? Who are they? Let's talk about that. And going forward, will these prices come down? Engineer has promised us from tomorrow, 9 shillings less. Midnight tonight, 9 shillings less. Let's put him to task. It's an hour and 40 minutes to midnight. We'll see. When we leave here, mtaenda kufuel nitaona.
Kabisa.
Au sio?
Sawa.
Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV. The hashtag is JKLive. We're going to take a break, come back, business news and sports, and then we continue our discussion here. It's very important. Are you listening out there? Let us know. Back in a moment.
Kenya sustains push for nuclear power to lower energy cost and drive industrialization.
Changamkia our own collection offer and get additional discounts when you pick up your order from Royal Mabati Factory Limited. Get Decatile at 500 shillings per piece. Call us now on 0722 638383.
At ZTech University, we equip you with global skills to thrive in today's and tomorrow's job market. Choose from market-driven programs in law, data science, computer science, nursing, software engineering, education, business, hospitality, media, IT, and international relations. Learn from expert faculty committed to your success. Grow beyond the classroom. Call our admissions consultants and join our May 2026 intake. ZTech University, inventing the future.
Stand a chance to win playful prizes. See details in store. T's and C's apply.
When I have back pain, I reach for 2 tablets of Panadol Extra. With unique Optizop technology, Panadol Extra provides 3 times more pain-relieving power than standard paracetamol for fast relief from strong pain like headache, toothache, and muscle pain, and can get to work in 10 minutes so that I am ready to be there for those who need me. Stronger pain relief at only 20 shillings per pair.
Wacha nikwambie, KC Lemon and Ginger imeingia kama nothing you've ever tasted before. Ni watu flavorful, wale wana mix it up watu wa luku, reggae leo, gengeton kesho. Jaribu KC Lemon and Ginger leo, 320 bob ya quarter na 840 ya mozinga. Inapatikana kwa lokoli yako au ke.thebar. Kenya Ken, the true Kenyan spirit since 1976.
Tomorrow belongs to those who shape it. At Riara University, we see the tomorrow in you. Whether you're mastering the law, building the next big idea, coding the future, or telling tomorrow's stories, Riara nurtures every spark of potential. We're a chartered university, recognized for excellence and innovation. Our new campus at Konza Smart City is a future-forward space where innovations meet opportunities. Shape your tomorrow today. Choose Riara University.
It starts with care. A hand-rolled dough, soft and perfect. A swirl of rich tomato sauce, melting cheese, golden crust. Then the flavor twist. A wet chicken, crispy, juicy, tender, made to perfection. This isn't just food, it's art. Order now on the Bolt Food app and enjoy 40% off your first Jajamelo order. Jajamelo Pizza and Chicken. Made in Kenya by Kenyans for the world.
Kikapu kibonge. Kikapu kibonge. Kibonge. Naiva says your money. Kila siku every day. Kikapu kibonge. Cheza kibonge. Homo value. Naiva. Hiyo ndo se. Kikapu kibonge. Kibonge.
Visit your nearest Naivas Key local or shop online for more and save big. Naivas saves you money.
One ticket bound for Peñon Viejo, thank you.
Going on a round trip?
No.
Your mother needs you and your sister. You are her daughters.
No. She doesn't need me at all. She'll be fine without me.
How is it possible that the face of the brand herself isn't even here?
Look, Dad, she's been present in every meeting. Something must have happened.
Clearly, this shows a lack of professionalism, as well as a severe absence of commitment. Mom, wait! Wait up! Stop!
What a lovely day.
It's raining.
Let's go out.
How boring.
You know, so glad.
Time for some business news here on JKL. The government has continued with its push to incorporate nuclear power into the country's energy matrix to enable Kenya meet its industrialization agenda. Speaking at an induction meeting in Kisumu County, Nuclear Power and Energy Agency Chairperson Lawrence Gumbe indicated that the planned nuclear plant in Siaya County would not only eliminate the country's need to import power, but also produce enough to spur local industries. Laura Otieno now reports on Kenya's resolve to boost its energy reservoirs.
With about 11 months remaining until the groundbreaking of Kenya's first nuclear plant in Siaya County, the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency has called for political goodwill outlining the benefits of nuclear energy. NUPEA chairperson Professor Lawrence Gumbe saying that adequate safety measures have been deployed, including the pending ratification of 4 nuclear safety conventions.
For us to reach the entry level of Vision 2030, we need to produce at least 60,000 megawatts from the 3,000 we are producing. So we need to think in those quantums, and nuclear power is the only one which we can use to very quickly bridge this gap.
Nuclear power plant is something that will last for like 100 years. So it's not just an energy project. It is more than that. And we have to work together with all stakeholders.
Siaya Governor James Orengo also made a case for the potential of nuclear energy to spur economic growth, not just on the national scale, but also for locals within the county.
I have this belief that if Siaya gets a primary investor that can help the lifting up of our economy, which is basically subsistence, then Siaya is going to be a different place.
Consultation will not be a one-off thing. It will always be continuous, and there will be need for public participation before, during, and after. As a county assembly, we know our role. The legislative authority of the county vests in the county assembly.
Kenya is set to break ground on its first nuclear power plant in March 2027. Nuclear Power and Energy Agency has mapped out 8 potential sites in Siaya County where the plant will be situated along the shores of Lake Victoria. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
Economic experts are warning that the government lacks the fiscal discipline to stick to the proposed 4.7 trillion shillings for the 2026-7 financial year. This, they say, could see Kenyans bear the cost of funding the nearly 5 trillion Kenya shillings budget. Further, they warn that the country's spending priorities may undermine long-term economic stability, as Jimmy Mbogo now tells us in the following report.
Advisors from EY are raising the red flag over what they describe as a mismatch between resource allocation and sectoral contribution to the economy in the 2026-2027 budget. According to analysts, key productive sectors such as agriculture, which contribute significantly to the gross domestic product of the country, continue to see their allocations decline.
Agriculture contributes about 70% of our GDP, but when you look at how much goes into that sector, it's very minimal. I mean, it's below what, 100 billion. It's very minimal. Either as a country, we do not believe that we can actually have value addition in this sector because agricultural transformation is one of the pillars in the current government.
The micro, small and medium enterprises drive the economy in Kenya. We're basically an economy with a lot at the base, with MSMEs being a significant part of the business environment. So we'd like to see targeted investments there and allocations to stimulate.
EY further raises concerns over the structure of government expenditure, where a significant portion of revenue is channeled towards recurrent expenditure and debt repayment, a trend that could limit fiscal space for development projects.
Current continues to carry the day with a lot of money going into that, and I think that's one of the areas that we are saying. If we are talking of fiscal consolidation, there are areas and elements that we can work on managing our recurrent expenditure.
We want to see a scenario where we raise debt, right? But with targeted focus to drive certain catalytic investments.
With the government continually overshooting its own spending estimates, experts now warn that the projected 4.7 trillion budget could spill over to nearly 5 trillion shillings, even as they note that the government is incapable of lowering the debt to GDP ratio to the desired 55% in the near term. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And cassava farmers in the country are increasingly exploring new options to address years of losses caused by the highly destructive brown streak disease. In Kilifi County, trial fields of genetically modified cassava are drawing attention as farmers closely monitor its performance and consider its potential. On this week's Smart Farm, our reporter Dennis Otieno is back from the coastal town of Mtwapa, where he met cassava farmers yearning for the switch.
For many farmers across the coastal region, cassava has long been a crop defined by uncertainty. Despite its ability to withstand dry conditions, pests and diseases continue to cause losses, leading some farmers to abandon the crop altogether.
Ile mwaka kwanza nilikumbana na magonjwa, mpaka nilipoanza kuvuna muhogo nilipoteza kila kitu kwa sababu ilikuwa imeingiliwa na ugonjwa ile brown. So nikapoteza kila kitu, mbegu pamoja na roots zake.
Hizo challenge zinatukumba sana kwa mambo ya mbegu ile mihogo ambao haiwezi kupandika tena, sababu ile virus ikiweza kumea katika ama ikisambaa katika ule mhogo, basi ule mhogo mzima hautambuliki ama haufai kabisa.
At trial fields in Mtwapa, Kilifi County, genetically modified cassava being promoted under the Kingaku varieties is now presenting a different picture. The variety has been developed to address cassava brown streak disease, a devastating disease that can wipe out entire plantations.
And the objective of the project is to develop and deploy cassava varieties that have a durable resistance to the most devastating viral diseases, that is cassava brown streak disease and cassava mosaic disease. Both the diseases are transmitted by insects.
Compared to conventional cassava, which is more vulnerable to pest infestation and disease, Kingaku cassava shows stronger resistance, resulting in healthier plants and more uniform roots.
We have been researching for the past 7 years on this crop that you are seeing here, because we want to give Kenyans the best variety they can grow to make money. It produces very big roots. It has good resources. It is somehow drought resistance.
We want to ensure Kenyans that whatever is in the country, like this Kingaku cassava that is produced here, is safe for the Kenyan population and ready for release to the environment.
A lot of work is being done by the scientists in the GMO space, and all of these scientists are being superintended over by the National Biosafety Authority.
We train groups, we do demonstrations for the groups that we have. We also train seed entrepreneurs, those who we expect to bulk seed and share to other farmers.
After years of repeated losses, many farmers are now reconsidering their options.
Nimepata picha ya kwamba mhogo sasa itakuwa inapatikana ile ambayo sasa imethibitishwa kwamba ni mzuri na haina ile magonjwa ambayo pengine ingeweza tena kunifanya nirudi pale pale kwa zile changamoto.
GM cassava tuseme nimeelewa kama ni tool yenye ambayo inatusaidia kuboresha mbegu kuwa nzuri zaidi. Kwa hivyo hiyo sijaipanda na nitajaribu ni compare hizi zingine nione mazao yake yatakuwaje.
Manake mimi nina shamba yangu nilikuwa nimeamua kupanda hata ekari 8 nzima. Lakini ile kiangazi cha mwaka jana ikanitatiza, lakini sasa nimejitolea.
We've been able to show that these 8 lines or 8 varieties that we are promoting under the Kingaku flagship, they are high yielding, giving over 10% over what is conventional varieties.
GM cassava trials here in Mtwapa are still ongoing, but early indications suggest that these varieties could help address long-standing challenges facing cassava farmers in the country. Dennis Otieno, Smart Farm.
Time for some sporting action. Australia's Matildas have won the inaugural FIFA Series friendly matches after blanking Kenya 2-0 in the final at the Nyayo National Stadium. Earlier in the afternoon, India picked the bronze medal after edging out Malawi 3-2 at the same venue. The CECAFA regional headquarters will move to Nairobi after consultation between CECAFA and the Ministry of Sports. Sports Principal Secretary Elijah Mwangi and FKF President Hussein Mohamed will spearhead the transition to ensure CECAFA settles in Nairobi. 14 football presidents from CECAFA and the COSAFA region met with FIFA and the government of Kenya, the Sports Ministry headquarters. FIFA announced that they will support Kenya in the development of a FIFA standard stadium in Mombasa County as their contribution towards the football infrastructure development in the country. The world governing body and arena, part of the football development, will also be launched in Nairobi soon. Athletics Kenya has selected 2 teams to represent Kenya at the 2 major championships in May 2026 after holding trials at the Ulinzi Sports Complex in Nairobi. Kenya sprinters stand up to be selected in the relays team for the World Relays Championship to be held in Gaborone in Botswana next month. The second team that was selected is the African Athletics Championship team, and Athletics Kenya pick upcoming athletes for the Africa Championship to offer a platform to announce themselves to the world. The World Relays is being hosted on the African soil for the first time. South Africa, Nigeria, the hosts Botswana and Kenya are the teams from Africa that are expected to do well in the championship. So, talk about fuel and how it's fueling the conversation on the bench.
The conversation is fueled all the way, man. There's a lot of talk here. And we got the best guests we could get. On the far end, Didi Nyoro, MP Kiharu. Right next to him is Albert Karakacha. He's President, Matatu Owners Association. Right next to him, Kimani Kuria, MP Molo. Walked in a little late, but he made it, which is good. He's chairman, Finance and National Planning Committee. And right next to me, Engineer Edwin Kinyua. He's Director, Petroleum and Gas at EPRA. What more do you want? Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff.
At Ayub Abdikadir.
The hashtag is JKLive. JKLive takes a break. We'll be back and continue our conversation in a moment.